They called her forgotten. A lone pilot lost in the chaos of a war no one remembered. But when the fleets fell, and hope seemed impossible, she didn't just survive, she turned the impossible into legend. Watch till the end, and see how one human refused to be forgotten. Comment, legendary, if you feel her courage. They called her forgotten. In a war that stretched across stars, her name had vanished from the records, erased by bureaucracy and the chaos of defeat. Fleets had crumbled, and the aliens believed humans were a species ready to be extinguished. Yet she remained, a single fighter drifting through the wreckage, her craft scarred, engines groaning, and systems barely holding together. Every beep, every flicker of the control panels reminded her that she was alone, yet every challenge ignited a spark in her human mind. She was nobody's hero, yet she refused to accept that label, or that fate. If the universe thought humans were weak, she would show them otherwise, even if the rest of humanity never knew her name. The battlefield was silent except for the occasional roar of distant explosions and the faint cries of dying machines. Smoke and debris floated in the void, casting eerie shadows over her ship as she navigated through the remnants of a fleet that had once been formidable. Her fingers danced over the controls, recalibrating systems damaged in the last skirmish. She traced the lines of alien vessels on her scanner, noting their formations, their predictable behavior, the gaps they left unguarded. They had strength, but they lacked imagination. And humans? Humans survived on imagination, instinct, and the refusal to surrender. She knew the odds were impossible, but she also knew that nothing impossible could truly hold back someone determined to survive. She thought back to training, to the drills where instructors would scoff at her daring maneuvers, warning her that risk was failure's closest friend. Yet in the silence of space, surrounded by devastation, those lessons became her greatest weapon. Every twist of her craft, every adjustment to shields or thrusters, every tiny decision was guided by a mind honed for improvisation, for turning disadvantage into opportunity. The aliens, for all their superior technology, were predictable. Their arrogance blinded them to the subtle patterns of survival, the fleeting advantages that a human pilot could exploit in seconds. She could see it now, how one misjudged trajectory or delayed reaction could unravel their entire formation. Her eyes flicked across the control panel, scanning energy signatures, analyzing the debris field around her. Each fragment of destroyed vessels was a lesson, a clue to what had gone wrong and what could still be righted. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was not just survival, it was a test of human ingenuity against a species that thought they had mastered war. They had mastered weapons, yes, but not instinct, not resilience, not the ability to turn chaos into strategy. Humans were underestimated because humans thrived where certainty failed. She remembered the last briefing she had received before being sidelined, the dismissive tones of those who had claimed she was too reckless, too impulsive to influence the outcome of the war. Yet here she was, alone, calculating maneuvers that might save the remnants of the fleet, and maybe, just maybe, rewrite the story of human survival. She adjusted her trajectory, slipping through a narrow field of debris where no alien vessel dared follow. Her calculations were split-second, instinct blended with logic, each decision a potential line between life and annihilation. And for the first time in hours, she felt a glimmer of control. She could influence the battle, even if no one would ever see her do it. Each successful maneuver, each evasive twist, was a quiet rebellion against the assumption that humans were expendable. In this empty void, she was the last proof of what humanity could endure and achieve. She allowed herself a brief, almost imperceptible smile. If the aliens thought they had extinguished human resistance, they had underestimated one pilot's mind. Sensors alerted her to the movement of an alien scouting vessel closing in from the edge of the debris. It was small, but fast, a harbinger of the reinforcements soon to arrive. She calculated the approach, noting the angles and speeds, the energy signatures of its weapons. A simple trap, easily avoidable if one thought like a human. She feigned retreat, diving toward a cluster of shattered hulls, and then pivoted at the last moment, her ship spiraling around the obstacle to emerge behind the alien craft. A pulse of her weapon system fired, striking the alien hull, more a warning than an attack, yet effective in causing chaos. The alien faltered, surprised by the audacity of a single ship daring to act against superior forces. And she pressed forward, already considering the next move, the next opportunity to exploit the predictable arrogance of her enemies. Memories of the fleet's final battle haunted her. Comrades lost, commands ignored, opportunities squandered. But they also fueled her determination. Humanity had not been defeated because of weakness. It had been betrayed by miscalculations, by the short-sightedness of leaders who could not see the full potential of their pilots. She would not make the same mistakes. Every calculation, every instinctive maneuver, every daring twist of her craft was designed to survive, to outthink, to outlast. Alone, she could be dismissed. Alone, she could be written off. But even alone, she was not powerless. Her mind worked like a weapon, sharper than any laser, faster than any missile, and more adaptable than any algorithm. The aliens might have dominated in numbers, but they lacked the chaos and creativity that humanity wielded instinctively. As she drifted further from the wreckage, the silence of space pressed against her, unbroken but for the distant hum of alien engines. Her sensors marked dozens of possible threats, yet she moved with a confidence born of experience, intuition, and the refusal to be defeated. She considered her options, charted the safest courses, and plotted paths where she could make a difference. Perhaps no one would ever know the action she took, the lives she might save, the way she bent defeat into a chance for survival. Perhaps she would always be the forgotten pilot. But in that moment, the title did not matter. What mattered was action, courage, and the quiet defiance of a human who refused to surrender to inevitability. Every star she passed, every shadow she navigated, reminded her of the truth. Humans were underestimated, but humans endured. And she, forgotten though she was, would prove that even one mind, one body, one relentless spirit could turn despair into strategy, chaos into opportunity, and a forgotten pilot into a force that could challenge the stars themselves. The alien fleet moved like a living organism, sleek, precise, and overwhelmingly powerful. Human ships scattered in retreat, battered and broken, while commanders called desperate orders that never reached their intended targets. Amidst the chaos, she analyzed their movements, noting patterns no one else seemed to notice. Their formation was perfect for raw firepower but rigid in adaptability. One misstep, one unpredictable human maneuver, could unravel the entire assault. She didn't have time to hesitate. Survival depended on exploiting what they could not anticipate. Her mind raced faster than the engines propelling her battered fighter. Calculations overlapped instinct, instincts sharpened by experience and an intimate understanding of human ingenuity. She considered trajectories, gravitational pulls from nearby debris, the velocity of incoming torpedoes. Each decision was instantaneous, a chain reaction of cause and effect that the aliens could not follow. While their sensors scanned methodically, they were blind to creativity, blind to the way a human mind could turn environmental hazards into weapons and escape routes into traps. She felt a quiet satisfaction in the knowledge that what they saw as chaos was her battlefield advantage. A squadron of alien interceptors lunged from the rear, intending to cut off escape routes. She predicted their vectors before they could fully commit, spinning her craft with a precision born of countless drills and battlefield improvisation. Using a combination of microthrusts and rapid barrel rolls, she passed between asteroids so closely the AI controlling the alien ships misjudged their own safe zones, colliding with debris in a cascade of sparks. Human instinct had triumphed where algorithms failed. Every narrow miss, every evasive twist, reinforced the truth she had always known. Humans survived not through raw power, but through adaptability, intuition, and audacity. Her sensors picked up distress signals from scattered human vessels, barely operational, yet clinging to life. She made the choice without hesitation. She would lead them out of imminent destruction. A calculated burst of speed allowed her to intercept one of the smallest craft, her precise maneuvers shielding it from an incoming barrage. The pilot of that vessel did not recognize her face, nor would anyone remember her name, but in that moment, she became their lifeline. Small victories accumulated quietly, each saved ship a proof of human ingenuity, each miscalculated alien strike a testament to the effectiveness of improvisation. Even in the shadows, humans could still influence the outcome of the battle. The larger alien ships adjusted their strategy, sensing an unpredictable element that had no place in their calculations. One flagship veered closer, its massive hull casting a shadow over the smaller craft. They assumed intimidation alone could force humans into submission, yet she saw their overconfidence as an opportunity. She guided the smaller ships through a labyrinth of debris, creating unpredictable vectors that disrupted the alien targeting systems. Missiles detonated harmlessly against scattered hull fragments, engines burned through evasive arcs, and the flagship faltered, unsure how a single human pilot could dictate the battlefield. Her mind remained calm under pressure, processing hundreds of variables simultaneously. She thought in 3 dimensions, predicting enemy maneuvers, accounting for the momentum of allied vessels, and leveraging the smallest environmental advantage. When an alien fighter came from an unexpected angle, she anticipated it, twisting her ship in a maneuver so precise that it seemed almost impossible. The alien misfired, its weapon colliding with another interceptor. Even their superior firepower could not overcome unpredictability, the very trait that defined human survival. She was not reckless, she was relentless, exploiting every flaw, every overconfidence, every assumption the aliens made. As the battle raged, she realized the alien command relied too heavily on coordination and rigid protocol. Humans, in contrast, thrived on adaptability. Each small human victory, though unnoticed by the larger fleet, created ripples of chaos among the enemy. She guided her own craft and the survivors around incoming barrages, turning traps into opportunities, ambushes into escape corridors. Her actions were invisible to the enemy fleet at large, but their consequences spread like wildfire, destabilizing formations, breaking morale, and leaving her adversaries scrambling to predict the unpredictable. She did not need recognition. Her priority was survival and impact, however unseen. The weight of responsibility pressed against her, yet fear never clouded her clarity. She knew that every decision could mean the difference between life and death for the humans she guided. And yet, she welcomed it. Pressure sharpened her instincts, forcing ingenuity to the surface. The aliens underestimated her because they dismissed the human mind, believing numbers and technology sufficient for victory. They had failed to consider a factor beyond their calculations: determination, creativity, and the refusal to accept defeat. Every saved ship, every avoided collision, every miscalculated missile strike was a human statement writ across the void. You cannot erase us. Through the chaos, she began noticing the subtle hesitations in alien movements. One flagship adjusted too slowly, a squadron misaligned by a fraction of a degree, and an intercepting force delayed its pursuit. She exploited these micro-errors without pause, guiding human vessels through narrow escape paths and countering alien advances with maneuvers that seemed almost miraculous. Her skill was not supernatural. It was pure human adaptability, honed by necessity and the relentless pursuit of survival. Every motion of her fighter was calculated to perfection, a dance of mechanics and intuition designed to outthink a superior enemy. Hours passed, measured only by the constant pulse of battle. Fatigue gnawed at her, yet she refused to allow hesitation. Human endurance, physical and mental, surpassed expectation when pushed to the brink. Her mind calculated one trajectory after another, anticipating enemy responses, adjusting shields, modulating engines, and coordinating with survivors who had no idea who guided them. Even though the larger fleet did not notice her actions, the small victories accumulated, providing hope where there had been none. Humanity's resilience manifested not in power alone but in determination, adaptability, and fearless improvisation. The alien flagship finally signaled a change in protocol, as if sensing the need to recalibrate against an unforeseen variable. Their arrogance had blinded them. They had never accounted for a human pilot who could think beyond their rigid rules. She did not pause, did not falter, and did not seek recognition. And even as she guided survivors through narrow corridors of space, narrowly avoiding destruction, she felt the quiet satisfaction of human ingenuity at work. Alone, overlooked, and officially forgotten, she demonstrated what the species could achieve when underestimated. The impossible was only impossible until a human proved otherwise. The enemy fleet may have dominated in numbers, technology, and force, but they had no answer for creativity, adaptability, and relentless courage. She was the embodiment of human defiance, and the battle, though far from over, now had a single variable the aliens could not control: her. The alien fleet was faltering, though they didn't yet realize it. Chaos had begun to ripple through their formations, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. She saw it clearly: the tiny misalignments, the hesitation in their maneuvers, the flicker of uncertainty that no human had yet noticed. Every move she had made to guide the scattered survivors had created fractures in the enemy's precision. She didn't need recognition. She only needed results. And results, she knew, were built on exploiting weaknesses invisible to those blinded by arrogance. Her mind raced, calculating angles, velocities, and trajectories at speeds no AI could match. She wove through asteroid fields, debris clusters, and the wreckage of destroyed ships with an audacity that left pursuing alien fighters scrambling. Each sudden pivot, each unpredictable twist, forced the enemy to adjust or collide. One by one, they faltered. Her maneuvers were no longer just defensive, they became offensive, a silent war of ingenuity. Missiles fired at her were lured into the debris, turning the environment into a weapon she had created without a single mechanical modification. The aliens were masters of technology, but she was a master of adaptation, and adaptation was humanity's greatest weapon. The surviving human ships responded instinctively to her guidance. They didn't see her, didn't know her name, but they followed the paths she carved through space, paths calculated to save lives and destabilize enemy formations. Each narrow pass through the wreckage became a gauntlet the aliens could not anticipate. Her mind was a battlefield in itself, balancing risk and reward, ensuring survival while striking blows against those who underestimated her species. Fear never slowed her. Every heartbeat was a signal to think faster, to act with precision, to turn desperation into opportunity. A squadron of alien fighters attempted to flank her and the human survivors. She assessed their vectors instantly, recognizing patterns in their overconfidence. Using a combination of speed and gravity-assisted turns, she led them into a trap of her own design. The fighters collided with debris or with each other, confused by sudden changes in trajectory that human instinct allowed and alien programming did not anticipate. In that instant, she transformed panic into strategy, fear into calculation. Each move was deliberate, calculated to maximize survival and disrupt the enemy's superiority. Humans thrived in unpredictability, and she embodied that principle fully. Her ship systems groaned under continuous strain, but she pushed them beyond recommended limits. Shield modulation, thruster output, weapon timing, all synchronized with human precision that no machine could replicate. She wasn't reckless, she was calculated, daring only when probability favored her. Her actions forced the enemy flagship to divert resources, leaving gaps in their formation, opportunities for the scattered humans to escape. Each tiny victory built upon the last, and though her name would never appear in reports, the outcomes spoke for themselves. Humanity endured, not because of recognition, but because one human refused to surrender to inevitability. The flagship attempted to recalibrate, sending a concentrated strike force directly toward her position. Predictable patterns emerged again: arrogance in the face of chaos, reliance on brute force over adaptability. She anticipated each move, adjusting shields, thrust vectors, and weapon timing with perfect precision. Using the debris field as cover, she forced the lead alien vessels to collide and misfire. A calculated burst of her own weapons caused a chain reaction among their ranks, creating confusion and forcing them to disperse. The aliens had underestimated her ability to manipulate the environment and the chaos around her. One pilot alone had become a variable they could not control. She saw the opportunity to escalate. The human ships, though battered, could now regroup and strike coordinated attacks if guided correctly. She relayed silent signals, subtle positioning and maneuvers that the survivors instinctively followed. Each movement was designed to exploit weaknesses in alien patterns, to force them into mistakes that humans could capitalize on. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the tide began to turn. A series of small, almost invisible victories compounded, eroding the enemy's confidence. The humans were surviving because she refused to allow defeat to feel permanent. Each improvisation, each daring maneuver, was a lesson in how underestimated strength and unrelenting determination could bend the impossible. The aliens reacted, redirecting forces toward her, the single human pilot causing disproportionate disruption. Their arrogance had not prepared them for ingenuity in the face of overwhelming numbers. She became a phantom presence, slipping in and out of sight, forcing errors, miscalculations, and hesitation. She drew their attention, but her focus was never on confrontation, it was on survival and opportunity. By positioning herself strategically, she allowed human forces to escape, regroup, and strike. Every maneuver was both shield and weapon, defense and offense, intellect shaping the chaos into order. Hours of relentless motion left no room for doubt. Her mind was a machine of calculation, anticipation, and instinct. Each human vessel she guided, each alien misstep she induced, was a proof of human adaptability and courage. The aliens had assumed they could dominate purely through technology and numbers, but she proved that one determined human could manipulate the battlefield to alter outcomes drastically. The survivors moved with newfound confidence, inspired unknowingly by her courage and brilliance. Humanity's strength was never in predictable power, It was in its capacity to improvise, endure, and redefine possibility. As the alien fleet began to splinter under compounded pressure, she saw the larger picture. The scattered ships now had the chance to retreat, to regroup, and to fight another day. Her maneuvers, previously defensive, had created openings where human ingenuity could flourish. She had transformed chaos into order, fear into strategy, and hopelessness into opportunity. Her actions, though invisible to command, had shifted the balance. A forgotten pilot had begun to turn the tide, demonstrating that human courage and creativity could challenge even the most advanced alien minds. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, humans had the upper hand. Not through overwhelming force, but through unpredictability, intelligence, and relentless determination. She became the unseen force, the architect of hope, the proof that one mind, unrecognized and underestimated, could dictate the course of a war. Her courage was quiet but undeniable, her intellect invisible but undeniable. The aliens were learning, too late, that human ingenuity was not to be ignored. And in the shadows of the wreckage, amidst the debris and the chaos, she prepared for the next moves that would cement her place not in records, but in legend. The alien fleet was fractured, their once perfect formation now a maze of confusion, hesitation, and disarray. They had underestimated her, assuming one human could be dismissed as irrelevant, expendable. But she had become more than a pilot. She was a variable they could not control, a force that disrupted strategy and turned chaos into opportunity. Her mind calculated with relentless precision, weaving her battered fighter through the void while orchestrating survival and retaliation for every human ship still in orbit. This was no longer just survival. This was defiance, the embodiment of humanity's refusal to yield. She targeted the alien flagship with careful calculation. Every twist of her craft was designed to manipulate their sensors, force errors, and create openings. Alien fire converged on her, but each volley was anticipated, evaded, or deflected through the clever use of debris, gravitational anomalies, and micro-adjustments invisible to those relying solely on programming. She struck where it hurt, not with brute force, but by dismantling their formation, creating panic, and forcing miscommunication. Humans thrived in unpredictability. She became its perfect exemplar. Her audacity forced the flagship to overcommit, exposing its flanks to the surviving human vessels now following her lead. The smaller human ships, previously scattered and desperate, began to move with coordination, instinctively mirroring the maneuvers she dictated. Her influence turned isolated survivors into a collective force, striking at gaps in the alien defenses with precision and efficiency. Each strike was calculated, every countermove anticipated, as if she were conducting a symphony in the void. The alien fleet, once confident and dominant, faltered under the weight of their own arrogance. They had never accounted for a mind that could improvise on the fly, one capable of exploiting every weakness, every delay, every predictable reaction. She pushed her fighter beyond known limits, thrusters screaming, shields straining, systems warning of overload, yet she remained unfaltering. Every movement was deliberate, every maneuver a demonstration of human ingenuity. She guided one vessel through a narrow channel between two massive wrecks, forcing pursuing aliens to collide, misfire, or retreat. Another human ship used the confusion to flank a larger destroyer, scoring critical damage that would have been impossible without her intervention. Each action built on the previous, creating a cascade of effects that slowly dismantled the enemy's advantage. Her solitary presence had become the backbone of human resistance, the spark turning desperation into opportunity. The flagship attempted a final overwhelming strike, sending a wave of elite fighters to eliminate her. She analyzed their approach instantly, predicting angles, velocities, and blind spots with uncanny precision. Using a combination of evasive rolls, bursts of speed, and gravitational slings, she caused the attackers to overcorrect, collide, and misfire. Their technological superiority could not withstand the ingenuity of a human pilot who anticipated their every move. Her actions were surgical, calculated, and unyielding, forcing the enemy to respond, react, and stumble, all while the surviving human ship seized the opening she created. Every maneuver was a statement. Humans could endure, adapt, and triumph even when outnumbered and outgunned. She became a symbol of defiance, though unnamed, unrecorded, and officially forgotten. The alien fleet, though vast, was vulnerable to the unpredictable, the inventive, and the relentless. And she embodied all three. With each calculated twist and evasive dive, She turned potential annihilation into survival and strategic victory. Small human victories compounded, spreading through the remnants of the fleet, restoring hope, and igniting determination. The impossible became possible, one maneuver at a time. She directed the human vessels into a sequence of calculated attacks, guiding them like chess pieces against the confused alien fleet. The flagship, distracted and forced to defend against threats it could not anticipate, became vulnerable to concentrated strikes. Human pilots, emboldened by her influence, executed daring maneuvers they would never have attempted alone. Critical systems of the alien ships were damaged, engines disabled, and weapon systems compromised. One by one, the once intimidating vessels fell into chaos. The surviving humans now held the upper hand, not through raw power, but through ingenuity, courage, and the tactical brilliance of one forgotten pilot. As the flagship faltered, she executed a maneuver that was simultaneously defensive and offensive. Using debris, gravitation, and speed, she forced the alien vessel to overextend, exposing critical weaknesses while drawing fire away from human ships. The survivors seized the opportunity, attacking in coordinated bursts that shattered alien morale and destroyed key assets. The fleet had been broken, its dominance replaced by disarray. Humans, underestimated and dismissed, had turned the tide. And all because one pilot refused to follow the rules of expectation. One mind had exploited the chaos to create victory from what seemed inevitable defeat. Her body ached, her ship battered, her systems near collapse. Yet her mind remained clear, calculating, unbroken. She guided the final maneuvers, orchestrating the retreat of surviving aliens while ensuring human vessels could regroup, repair, and prepare for the battles ahead. The alien forces retreated, shaken, defeated, and uncertain. They had underestimated what one human could accomplish. They had dismissed innovation, courage, and ingenuity as irrelevant. And now they faced the consequences. Humanity had endured, and she had ensured their survival. She had turned defeat into legend. In the silence after the battle, she floated among the wreckage, unnamed, unrecognized, and officially forgotten. Yet her actions had written a story that would ripple through survivors for generations. They may not know her name, but they would never forget the impact of her courage. Every human saved, every enemy vessel disrupted, every improbable maneuver executed perfectly was a testament to what humanity could achieve. The forgotten pilot had become a symbol, a legend of resourcefulness, endurance, and unyielding spirit. In the vast expanse of space, she proved that humans could turn impossible odds into unforgettable victories. She did not wait for recognition, for accolades, or for medals. She had already achieved the only thing that mattered. She had preserved hope, ensured survival, and demonstrated what a single human could accomplish against overwhelming odds. The alien fleet, once confident in their dominance, now understood a simple truth. Humans were unpredictable, indomitable, and brilliant in ways that no algorithm could anticipate. And the pilot who had orchestrated their downfall, though forgotten in reports, would be remembered forever in the hearts of those who survived. Humanity had been underestimated, but she had turned that underestimation into victory, courage into legend, and one forgotten pilot into a beacon of hope that could never be erased.